Welcome to the Catalyst of Change, Advancing Equity and Inclusion in Science. This seminar is in English. There is interpretation available in Spanish, French, and Hindi. To access interpretation, kindly select the language of your preference in the Zoom bar menu. This seminar will be recorded and made available on the CIMMYT YouTube channel. You are invited to submit questions via Slido for our distinguished speaker of today to be addressed in the open Q&A session at the end of the conversation. We are hearing today from Dr. Tek Sapkota, Principal Scientist at CIMMYT, where he leads the Climate Change Science Unit. Prior his presentation, we will have an introduction by Dr. Tek Sapkota, Director of Sustainable Agri-Food Systems at CIMMYT. Our distinguished speaker will be interviewed by Francisco Alarcón, Latin American Communications Manager at CIMMYT. Now, I would like to welcome Dr. Brian Gobards, Director General of CIMMYT, to officially open the event, Catalyst of Change, Advancing Equity and Inclusion in Science. Dr. Gobards, over to you.
Good morning, good evening, or good night, everyone connected. It's a pleasure to welcome you to this new session of Catalyst of Change, a space where we bring together leading voices who are challenging assumptions, advancing scientific excellence, and inspiring the transformation of our agri-food systems. Today, we have the privilege of hosting an exceptional colleague whose trajectory reflects the values we champion at CIMMYT: rigorous science, global collaboration, and a deep commitment to farmers and communities. We welcome Tek Sapkota, Scientist for Agricultural Systems and Climate Change in CIMMYT, and whose leadership in climate-smart agriculture and mitigation strategies has shaped regional and global agendas. His research interest includes the analysis of cropping systems from the food security-climate change nexus. Besides his involvement in studying management consequences on various processes in agroecosystems and their effect on food security, climate change adaptation, and mitigation. Until today, he has authored more than 30 journal articles, book chapters, popular articles, as well as many conference and industry publications about sustainable agriculture, climate change, and food security. Tek joins us today directly after participating in COP30, where he contributed to high-level dialogues on climate action, adaptation pathways, and the critical role of agricultural innovation in meeting the global targets. Tek, your insights from COP30 give us a unique opportunity, an opportunity to understand not only where the international negotiations are heading, but especially how science from CIMMYT can inform and accelerate climate ambitions on the ground. Thank you for bringing that fresh perspective into this space. In this conversation, we will also have the presence of our own and one and only Dr. Tek Sapkota, Sustainable Agri-Food System Program Director, and a globally recognized leader in agroecology, soil health, and farmer-centered innovations. We also have with us Francisco Alarcón, who is the Latin America Communications Manager at CIMMYT. Francisco has over 20 years of experience in arts, design, and communication for impact and development, and 15 years as an academic. As we look towards 2030 and beyond, the urgency of transforming agri-food systems has never been clearer. Climate change, biodiversity loss, food insecurity, and inequality are converging challenges that require scientific excellence, operational agility, and genuine partnerships. The work that Tek and Tek lead across disciplines, ecosystems, and geographies demonstrates what it means to respond to those challenges with both ambition and responsibility. Catalyst of Change was created precisely for conversations like the one we will have today. Conversations that help us connect. Conversations that help us connect to global processes with local realities, that allow us to learn from each other, and that ensure that our science remains relevant, adaptive, and grounded in the real needs of farmers and rural communities around the world. I want to thank you both of our speakers for being here and thank all of you for joining us. I invite you to engage, to ask questions, and to reflect on how the insights shared today can enrich your work and can amplify your collective impact. Well, why would we lose more time? Let's begin. And thank you very much once again for being with us.
Thank you, Dr. Govards. We would like to invite Dr. Sig Snap for an introduction presentation. Dr. Snap, over to you.
Thank you so much, Isabel. It's so good to see all of you. It is a distinct honor to present Tek Sapkota. When I came just 4 years ago to CIMMYT, I was so excited to see that in this time of change, of really increasing pressures from extreme weather events, that we had Tek Sapkota to lead us forward at CIMMYT. Agri-food systems, climate change science could not have a better and more experienced and also pioneering leader in bringing us together, because the Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change, IPCC, is trying to do things different. There are special reports on climate change and land, and he has been one of the lead authors, currently working as a lead author for this 7th assessment report. And voices are being amplified through these documents that are global in scope. And his background, which you're going to hear a little bit more about, really makes him well qualified for this, and that he's really walked the walk with communities, with international scientists, starting with a PhD in agriculture, environment, and landscape at the Santa Ana School of Advanced Studies in Italy. He also collaborated with Aarhus University in Denmark, which is a partner that we are working more and more with through some of their unique advanced research approaches to improve how we manage nitrogen. This is a unique area of strength at CIMMYT, and his global atlas around agriculture and nitrogen and climate change is a unique knowledge product for the world. I've been honored to be with him at several COPs. These are the consultative groups where we meet together to try to solve some of these really challenging problems of the future. So with his leadership and a growing team of climate change scientists at CIMMYT, directly working on our Strategy 2030 to transdisciplinary research, locally adapted and farmer-aware approaches. He'll be sharing a little bit on the multiple fronts that CIMMYT, with our drought-tolerant maize varieties, our heat-tolerant wheat, and unique areas we have recently highlighted in a review that shows from climate adaptation digital approaches, such as how do you change feeding patterns in Bangladesh in your aquaculture, to what is El Nino? What are these droughts and erratic rainfall patterns that farmers are now facing? And how can a farmer in Zambia with her family, how can she respond? So these are some of the breadth and depth of our approach at CIMMYT. And we're very fortunate to have Tek to lead us. Recently, he led a group of 30 scientists from across the CGIAR and the Climate Action Science Program. And he's particularly focused around mitigation and transition pathways so that we can do low emission agriculture. But he realizes that we also need to always have co-benefits, adaptation, so that farmers can be supported in these really challenging times. I am sure I join you in looking forward to hearing how we went from the mid-hills of Nepal to being the global leader on climate action that we need at CIMMYT. So over to you, Tek. I'm so excited. And thank you again for sharing today.
Thank you very much. Thank you, Sig and Bram, for such a wonderful introduction. Hello, everybody. Greetings from Paris. Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening, wherever you are hearing this from. So in next 30 minutes or so, I would be sharing my professional journey, where I started from, what am I doing right now in the area of climate action across the food system. And doing that, the hope is that I would be able to inspire some of you to be the catalyst of change in the food system space, food and climate change space. So I will try to narrate you through, showing some of the pictures and presentation. So I would like to share my screen. Is my screen visible now?
Yes, it is.
Oh, okay, great. Thank you. Thanks again, Dr. Brahm and Dr. Sikh, for a wonderful introduction. So it is an honor to speak on this prestigious forum as a catalyst of change. So I would like to, demonstrate, but I would like to spend some time in this first slide over here. So the picture I have selected here is to give the snapshot of where I started from, and how we move, and then what am I doing right now. So the leftmost picture in this slide shows a village that I was born and brought up in, where I also got my primary education. The middle pictures, the village in the upper picture, and the school on the lower picture, is where I got my high school education. I will come back to that a little bit later. And the rightmost picture shows my involvement in the roundtable discussion with various ministers and presidents from across the world, including our executive managing director, Dr. Ismahan El-Laufi, in during the roundtable discussion in COP29 in Azerbaijan. So it's basically where I come from, from Nepal, and then what kind of work that I'm doing in the climate space. So I would like to briefly go back to my root and my early life. So as I said, that I was born and brought up in this beautiful village in mid-hills of Nepal. For those people who don't know where Nepal is, it is a small country. Is my pointer visible? Let me change the pointer. Is my pointer visible, Isabel?
Yes, it is. Yes.
Okay, yeah. So Nepal is a small country here in between India and China, as you can see. And if you look at the zoomed version of the Nepal's map, the pin area is where my village lies. So this is the village I was born and brought up in. As you can see from the beautiful green lush forest and terraces, that agriculture was the mainstay of livelihood when we were growing up as a kid, and still is. Some people would also go choose the profession to join army in other countries, such as British Army, Singapore Army, Indian Army, as a source of livelihood. But majority of the people in the village was agriculture. My childhood memory is still vivid. I still remember how we used to wake up with the sound of rooster, and we used to walk through this narrow path of mountain to go to school with friends, and working in our family farms before and after school to help our parents to grow crop. Mostly on the weekend, I used to take care of goats or buffalo, often carrying books in my hand. So it's like school is one area where I got education, but agricultural field and pasture land is also where I had part of my studies out, I should say. So I got my primary education from the primary school located on the top of my village. Let me zoom in slightly just to show. So my school is right here where the cursor is. So I got my primary education here. And for high school, I went to a different village just below this house. And above this house, there was a jungle. And the middle of the jungle was where our school was located. So let me magnify this portion a little bit. So this is our high school. So this is where I completed my high school from. So how did I land to agriculture eventually? Um, so growing up in a small village where aspiration of majority of youths was to join British Army or Singapore Army or Indian Army, else they had to remain as a farmer in their parental land. I decided to choose agriculture instead, also because the mainstay of economy in my house and livelihood source was agriculture, and I wanted to continue agricultural science. And for that I joined Institute of Agriculture and Animal Science under Tribhuvan University in Nepal. That was the only university offering agricultural degree at that time. So I completed my Bachelor of Science in Agriculture in 1999 and Master of Science in Agriculture in 2002 from the same university, Institute of Agriculture and Animal Sciences. Immediately after my master's degree in agricultural sciences, I started working with farmers in a farming community, joining this organization. First, I joined Forward, which is a civil society organization devoted for agriculture and rural development. Forward stands for Forum for Rural Welfare and Agricultural Reform for Development. And shortly after working in Forward, I joined LIBER, that stands for Local Initiatives for Biodiversity Research and Development, a national NGO deeply involved in research and development in the area of local agro-biodiversity conservation, conservation of local crops and varieties for resilience, livelihood, and biodiversity. And after 5 years of working in LIBER, I started working in practical action to lead a project on climate-induced disaster risk reduction. I'll come to this work and then scientific aspects slightly later. But let me briefly also highlight that this was also the period that was also a turning point for my personal life. This is the period when I met my soulmate, my beautiful wife. We got married and then we made a beautiful family. I should also mention that my wife also has a great role, whatever I have been able to do so far in my career. So she is the household head. She manages everything in the house, including raising the kids and their education on top of her regular job. So she is the great hero behind me, releasing me free for whatever I have been able to do for the world. So if I have done any contribution for the globe on climate action across the food system, share goes to my wife as well. I'm equally proud of my kids who are well raised and they are doing very good in their respective field of education. So thanks to them as well for not bothering me too much and letting me continue to do the job that I have been kind of dreaming to do. So let me continue again with my professional journey. So working in these organizations, particularly working in LIBER, was a kind of opportunity for me to lead the projects around participatory varietal selection, in situ crop conservation, biodiversity conservation, and promoting these local crops and local crop varieties by through value addition and market linkage and so on. So if you look at this slide, the upper pictures are a kind of typical landscapes, agricultural landscapes in the mid-hills of Nepal. You can see the green terraces a little bit away from the field where farmer would normally grow staple crops. And their houses are normally surrounded by what we call homestead garden that comprises of various type of vegetables, fruits, spices crop, and they would also have a couple of goats or buffalo, for example. In some cases, they would also have a small fish pond, a typical of what you can see in the bottom left picture over here. So all their homestead in the middle here would be surrounded by this kind of homestead garden. The picture on the right, you can see the various type of millets, amaranth, and beans. And during my work in LIBER, I was fortunate enough to lead all this kind of work in conserving this biodiversity through market linkage, and value addition. My work in practical action, where I was leading, climate-induced disaster risk reduction in Nepal. That was a multinational project, and I was leading the Nepal component. And working during this project opened my eyes on how vulnerable our communities and agricultural system is and was to various climate-induced disaster and climate-induced extreme events such as landslide, flooding, windstorm, drought, and outbreaks of pests and diseases, and so on. So if you look at the top left picture over here, even a small landslide that is happening in the upstream can sweep away whole community in the downstream community, for example. In the top right picture over here, you can see that even a brief moment of windstorm induced by climate change can topple down whole banana orchard, destroying whole income and livelihood of the farmers. The picture on the bottom, you can see that due to untimely and incessant rainfall that has occurred during the harvesting time of the rice, whole rice crop can be destroyed just before harvesting by inundating the crops like this, or even after harvesting when farmers would cut their rice and then they will leave it in the field for drying. And you can see how devastating the situation could be. So looking and working to address this kind of situation, let me realize that understanding the drivers of the climate change, what is driving this climate change, and then climate-induced extreme events and disaster and their consequences on farming, food production, and livelihood of the farming community, and how we can cope with those kind of disaster, and how can we make our practices better so that we can contribute to this kind of climate-induced disaster in the future by minimizing our impact in environment. This is so much of interrelated practice and that phenomenon, and that requires a holistic approach to understand and to act accordingly. And realizing that need, I move abroad for higher education to enhance my global research experience and learn more about the drivers of the climate change, the consequences of the climate change, and how we can respond across the food system to contribute to better environment, climate resilience, and minimizing the climate impact of our food production system. So for that, I joined for PhD in Italy. It is called Scuola Superiore Sant'Anna as in Italian, but it translates into Sant'Anna School of Advanced Studies. So I completed my PhD in Agriculture, Environment, and Landscape from Sant'Anna School of Advanced Studies in 2011, with part of my research done in Aarhus University. And immediately after that, I also work in University of Manitoba in Canada to understand the impact of climate change and quantify the impact of farming practices on climate change under the large-scale prairie cropping system. So studying and working through this diverse environment in a smallholder production system in Nepal, in Mediterranean cropping system in Italy, and organic farming system in Denmark, and large-scale prairie cropping system in Western Manitoba had a kind of learning ground for me to understand the plant, soil, and environment interaction under various cropping system, and how we can exploit and better manage that plant, soil, and environment interaction in order for enhancing productivity, to improve the crop soil quality, and at the same time minimize the management consequences on environment by reducing environmental impact and reducing greenhouse gas emission and climate change impact, for example. So that kind of experience during my PhD, post-PhD, beside that, I also had some opportunity to learn about quantifying the environmental impact of production system by measuring greenhouse gas emission by using chamber method, as you can see from the left picture here. or continuously measuring greenhouse gas emission from the production system using micrometeorological method. You can see the flux gradient method here in the right picture over here. So what it does is it takes the gas sample from the two sample intake here. It has, if these intakes would be at a fixed height, and then by using a micrometeorological approach, it will directly go to the analyzer and it continuously measures the greenhouse gas emission coming from this intake as well as this intake. And because they are at a fixed height, by using certain micrometeorological approach, you can quantify greenhouse gas emission, nitrous oxide emission, methane emission, and carbon dioxide emission continuously from the cropping system. So I also had an opportunity to work on this sophisticated approach of measuring greenhouse gas emission from production system. On top of that, I also learned and had experience on modeling the impact of production system on environmental consequences such as leaching and greenhouse gas emission. So with all these experiences of understanding and measuring plant-soil environmental interaction and their consequences to environment from smallholder production system, large production system, organic production system, and modeling experiences, I joined CIMMYT in 2012 to work with the global CGIAR system, which was even further opportunity for me to learn about various cropping system and their management system for better productivity, better soil quality, and better environmental consequences across the global south in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. So it was honor for me to work with pioneers such as Ken Sayer, Bram Gobart, Emil Zat, Mahesh Gathala, to learn about tillage and crop establishment method, conservation agricultural system, precision nutrient management, water management, residue management, and so on. But I also contributed to the team by quantifying the environmental consequences, including climate change adaptation and mitigation benefit of those practices. So it was like win-win collaboration to work with this agronomist, well-renowned agronomist from across the globe, from Latin America to South Asia. As a leader of climate change, I also bring in the young scientists, including students, and train them for various aspects of quantifying the environmental consequences of management, cropping system management. I'm very happy to let you know that some of my proteges are now following this practices, teaching in the university, or also leading various research program in various research organizations across the globe. So my journey in CIMMYT for the 14 years has started from a postdoctoral fellow studying a specific research agenda within a bigger project to associate scientist, senior scientist, and principal scientist, now leading a portfolio of activities within a climate change, and also coordinating a team of multidisciplinary professionals from across different regions in Asia, Africa, and Latin America. And besides, training young scientists and students, I also bring in experience and young scientists in a group from within a CIMMYT, CGIAR, and partner organizations in order to make a collective action in climate change or climate action across the food system. So it has been a fantastic journey for me to lead this efforts and train and build a team to enhance our footprint or increase our footprint in the climate action across the food system, working over 1.5 decade in CIMMYT. As Sig also mentioned, that I also led the review of our climate action right from the past until now in order to understand what we have done so far in the area of climate change across the food system, to understand what our competitive advantage is and what should be our priority area of climate action going forward that aligns with our strategy, CIMMYT Research and Innovation Strategy to 2030. And also, I had an opportunity to lead the CGIAR Climate Action Science Program with the group of scientists, over 30 scientists from across CGIAR, to design and develop that climate action science program to transform food, land, and water system for really resilient and low emission pathways. And that program is now in the implementation stage for 2025 to 2030 portfolio in different countries across the globe. So let me briefly go and highlight, some of the leadership and some of the impact that I have managed to create beyond CIMMYT and CGIAR. In 2017, I was fortunate enough to serve as a lead author for IPCC Special Report on Climate Change and Land. IPCC stands for Intergovernmental Panel on Climate Change. This is a kind of apex body globally to assess the climate change, physical basis of the climate change, vulnerabilities, and adaptation and mitigation options periodically. And it produces what we call assessment report periodically every 4 to 5 years. But sometimes it also produces a special report when there is an urgent need to produce certain special report or a special subject arises. So I was lead author to produce this special report on climate change and land, together with over 200 scientists from around the world, as you can see over here. The people on the right picture are those who were involved in writing food, climate action in food system and food security, including myself. And this is the first report that we introduced a concept of food system approach into global climate action agenda. And let me briefly highlight what does food system approach to climate action means. So let me start with this food system circle over here. If you can see my cursor moving here. So food system involves all the actors and their activities across the food value chain, from production and supply of the food to transportation, processing, and marketing of the food, food preparation and consumption, and management of food loss and waste. So all the activities and their actions across this is what constitute the food system. The climate system, on the other hand, constitutes various variables that induce the climate change, such as temperature, precipitation, extreme events, etc. And these variables of climate change, temperature, precipitation, extreme events, they impact each and every steps of the food system, right from production, marketing, consumption, and management of food loss and waste, either in positive way or negative way. But the way that we manage our food system, the way that we manage our production system, the way that we manage our transportation, processing, and marketing system, the way that we manage our consumption system, or the way that we manage to minimize food loss and waste through the food system, also impact the climate change adaptation or mitigation in both ways. So this is a two-way interaction between climate system and food system. And this kind of close interaction determines the availability of food, access to food, utilization, and stability. And these are the indicators of food security that constitutes food security and contributes to other sustainable development goals. And this is also first time that we highlight that food system solutions are those solutions that also has both adaptation and mitigation benefit across the climate action. So there are climate action in every sector of economy. So climate action can happen in energy sector, transportation sector, industry sector, waste management sector, everywhere. So if we are changing fossil fuel driven vehicle to electric vehicle, that will provide mitigation benefit, because that will lead to less emission to the environment. So that gives only mitigation benefit, not the adaptation benefit. But if you look at the food system options, they provide both mitigation and adaptation benefits. So although the mitigation total mitigation potential would be smaller in food system related option, they also provide adaptation benefit and increased production. So they are kind of beneficial that way. So let me make a little bit bigger here. So look at the example. If you are increasing soil organic matter through conservation agriculture, cropping system diversification, proper residue management, or or other options, then that will means that you are sequestering carbon from the atmosphere system to the terrestrial system. So that is mitigation. At the same time, improving soil organic matter means you are also improving the soil quality, and that enhance the soil productivity and overall production from that field. So look at all these management options across the food system, whether it is water management, nutrient management, cropping system diversification, biodiversity, biochar application, agroforestry, perennial crop, residue management, crop livestock integration, or cereal legume integration. Think of anything. This would have both adaptation and mitigation benefit, and that's the beauty of climate action in food system, where you can, it's just like, killing two birds with one bullet. So with one activity you can have both mitigation and adaptation benefit. So during that time when we were introducing the food system concept in climate action, that was also the time when agriculture and food had gotten prominence into global climate agenda, including COP. COP stands for Conference of Parties. When I say parties, it is countries that has signed treaty with United Nations Framework Convention on Climate Change, UNFCCC. So it's basically annual gathering of all the countries who had signed agreement with in UNFCCC for climate action, joint climate action. So let me highlight when agriculture was the agenda or subject of discussion on COP, this annual event participated by almost all the countries from around the world. So agriculture was first introduced as formal agenda in COP 23, led by Fiji government. It was held in Germany, but it was led by Fiji government in the name of Coronibia Joint Work on Agriculture. But it was only on discussion. So 4 years later in Egypt, during in Sharm el-Sheikh, so Coronibia Joint Work on Agriculture was renamed as Sharm el-Sheikh Joint Work on Agriculture, focusing from discussion to implementation. And during COP 28, which was held in Dubai in UAE, it is also known as Food COP. There was unprecedented emphasis on climate smart agriculture, sustainable agriculture, and sustainable development goals in that COP, including encouraging countries to include food in their NDCs. So NDCs stands for Nationally Determined Contribution. So it is a kind of commitment from each countries submitted to UNFCCC. This is our commitment for climate action. This is the amount of greenhouse gas emission we can reduce from this, and this activity by using our own source. And if we get additional source, we will also be able to do this this much, for example. So this is how the document NDC would content in terms of climate commitment submitted to UNFCCC. And agriculture was not part of the NDCs for many countries in the past, but nowadays this globally recognition of agriculture and food system in climate change, that agriculture has to be part of NDCs as well. So COP 30, which has just completed last week in Brazil, it also provided unprecedented emphasis mostly on the food system approach to climate action, and urged the countries to include agriculture and food system in their NDCs by 2027. So there has been increased emphasis of food system approach when it is discussed and kind of taken decision at a COP, which is kind of top level decision to have a global action on climate change. I had also been involved as a review editor of IPCC assessment report, sixth assessment report. So as I mentioned earlier, that IPCC is the apex body to assess the scientific knowledge on the physical basis of climate change, vulnerabilities, adaptation, and mitigation options in climate change. And it produces the assessment report periodically every 4 to 5 years. So assessment report 6 was produced in 2012, where I was also a review editor to review all the work done by authors and lead authors and coordinating lead authors there. I was also coordinating lead author for Global Environmental Outlook. So Global Environmental Outlook is environmental assessment report again produced by United Nations Environment Program that also produces report every 4 to 5 years on the state of the art on the environmental management options across different sector of economy. And then I was involved in food system transformation for better environmental outcomes. And this figure over here is a subset of that group. This group also involves more than 300 scientists from around the world. And this is just a subset of people who were gathered in Jeju province in South Korea to draft the summary of policymaker. So summary of policymaker is a kind of abstract or summary out of whole report to take it to the policymaker so that the formal approval has to be done by the policymaker or the government representative again, for example. So I was fortunate enough to be part of drafting this very valuable report both in IPCC and UNEP during my career. So this figure is still in embargo. So in this report, we have identified 5 solution pathways for transforming food system to meet the global environmental goals of reducing pollution, reducing environmental emission, reducing biodiversity loss, and water pollution, etc., etc. So some of these are, improving the system productivity, shifting diets to sustainable consumption, reducing food loss and waste, and enhancing circularity, novel food production, for example, like plant-based protein and so on, and transforming food industry market and trade and so on, for example. So this figure is still in embargo. This report will be launched on 9th November, 1 week from now, and then it will be made public. So I would like to take you back again to my village, to highlight the fact, this is my last slide. So to highlight the fact that catalyzing something or being a catalyst of something does not always have to be at a global level or at a national level. It can happen at home also. So let me again take you back over here to highlight that, okay, where I come from, what kind of challenges and obstacle that I had been through, and what we are trying to do for the present generation to make sure that the present generation does not have to, go through that challenges, and they can also dream high and work towards fulfilling their dream. So as I said that this is my school, I would like to magnify a little bit. So this is the school, primary school that I went to for my elementary education. And then there was so just above these houses in the middle of the jungle was our high school over here. So not much before that we were, my generation or my batch was reaching to grade 8. This high school was offering education only up to grade 8. And the elder generation, my brothers and sisters, after grade 8, they had to walk all the way down to Pokhara downhill, 3 hours from our village to go to school in Pokhara to continue their education from grade 9 onward. So for 9th grader kids, walking 3 hours one way to go to Pokhara and then getting that education again, coming back, walking 3 hours would be almost impossible. And only those kids who had their relative in Pokhara, they would have opportunity to continue their education. And for many of us, continuing education beyond the grade 8 was not possible, and it was just like a dream. But at the same time, all the parents from our village, they decided to upgrade this school and build high school all by the local resources, not only to build the additional building for the additional classes, but also to pay for the additional teachers that is required to make sure that we could continue our grade 9 and 10 in the village without necessitating us to leave the village. So I'm kind of thinking right now that if they have not done that, probably I wouldn't be here. So almost 35, 36 years fast forward now, when we graduated, when we completed our high school from this, the product of these schools now are in different positions all around the world. research scientist, lecturer in universities or school teacher, or doing some successful business here and there, lawyer, engineer, and so on. But none of us have forgotten our village. And whenever we always gather, there is a group that we always gather, we discuss what we can do for our school together. And we had by raising the local resources entirely from our fund, we have established a computer lab in this school so that the present kids can also have a state-of-the-art education right in that village. And my wife and I also have created a fixed fund for a primary school where I got my primary education in the name of my parents, so that the interest coming from that fixed fund can be used to provide midday meal for all the kids coming to school there. One of the incentive for parents to send their kids to school as well. So, and whenever we have opportunity to go to Nepal, we always go to this village and discuss with parents, teachers, and students as well to understand how they are doing, what are the obstacles, and how we can contribute together, for example. And many a times we also share stories, including our stories as well, how we came, what was the challenges back then. And whole purpose is to inspire them that the limited resources should not stop them from dreaming high and working towards their dream. So for some people, it might feel like bragging, but for many of these kids, it is a kind of source of inspiration. So they may ask themselves, if this man can do, why not we? I'll stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Tek, for sharing with us your outstanding professional and personal journey. Now we invite Francisco Alarcón to have a conversation with you. Over to you, Francisco.
Thank you very much, Isabel. Hi, Dr. Tek. Thank you for
Hi, Francisco.
For this presentation and for sharing this journey with us. Your experiences has shown us your own path shaped by real challenges in your community, those climate-induced disasters, for example. I think that experiences guide your commitment to advancing climate action through agricultural science. And I think your journey remind us that meaningful change begins with people who choose to act. And today, the agri-food sector is facing major challenges that require all of us to step forward if we want to lead climate action in an effective and meaningful way, no matter what our role is in the organization. In that sense, from your perspective, what skills or competencies do we need to develop as scientists, as technical teams, as a staff to take on a more active, catalytic, and transformative role in climate action and to help the agri-food sector face these challenges? Please, Doctor.
Thank you, Francisco. I think it's a very relevant question. So I think we need both soft skill and hard skill for that. So hard skill in the sense that we need to have strong scientific background. So if you remember that when I'm still working with the farmers, and foundation with working with the farmers is something. So we study something, scientifically we have something, but farmers have different knowledge. So working with them creates different experience to relate your scientific knowledge with the farming reality and co-create the solutions together with them. So making any change, you require a very strong scientific background. So you have to be persistent and consistent on what you are dreaming for, what your aim, what your scientific discipline is. So you can only share what you know, right? So you cannot share something that you don't know. One is that skill. I think scientific skill is indispensable. But nowadays, in order to be catalyst of change, you also need people skill or soft skill. So you have to be good enough to create your team, to train your junior or young scientists so that you cannot do alone. If you have a team, if you train people in this area, if you convince people to work in this area, only then you can make that meaningful change. So in order to be catalyst of change in any field, you need people skill. You need soft skill to train people so that they can continue your legacy going forward as well. So you need humility. You need you need to lead by purpose and humility for that.
Okay. Thank you, Doctor. That is very useful because we really need to develop those skills. So you shared many of your most valuable insights came from local practices, those community learnings and farmer-led innovations. And today, because of the pressure and risk that climate change is putting on agri-food systems, agriculture has become even more crucial, and farmers and communities are essential actors in climate action. In that sense, from your experience, what kind of approach or what type of pathway should CIMMYT and our stakeholders, our partners, must reinforce to work even more closely with rural communities, with farmers, and to design climate solutions that truly address their needs and realities to improve climate resilience? As Dr. Bram mentioned at the beginning, connecting global processes with rural realities. Please, Doctor.
That is brilliant question, Francisco. I think so. Again, I would like to emphasize the locally led approach here because there are certain scientific grounding, but all the local processes that farmers or farming communities are doing, they also have a scientific grounding, knowingly or unknowingly. It is only possible to make all these climate actions that we implement that are relevant for the farming condition or the reality of the challenge with the farmers if we are working together. So it involves with the local approach. We have developed this hub approach in Mexico, for example, and climate smart village in Asia, Africa as well. And we have living lab or living landscape where different stakeholders come together, discuss the idea, what are the challenges that they are facing, what are the opportunities to address those challenges, what is the current stage of the challenges, and where they want to go in future, for example. So from current stage to future stage, and what is needed in order to move from stage 1 to stage 1 or stage 2, or from present state to the future desired stage. And based on that, it's collectively co-creating those solutions, not only identifying the problem, but also identifying the solutions and also implementing that solution so that they also have this ownership during the process. It's not only implementing, but also involving them, all the stakeholders, whether it is farmers, extension worker, private players, market players, and so on, or local researchers, for example, or local leaders, also in monitoring and evaluation, so that we can also course correct during the process. So if we are doing something and then if you are not evaluating during the process, then you don't know whether you are going in the right direction or wrong. So if you are doing this participatory evaluation with them, then you would know whether you are on a right path or you have to correct that course slightly. So I would say that it is there are different names, whether it is a locally led approach or living lab, for example. Mother baby trial that she used to pioneer. She had pioneered, doing this kind of trial in a farmer's field, and hub approach that we have pioneered here in CIMMYT. All these local approaches are the fundamentals to work with,
Yes.
whatever the name it comes with.
Yes, indeed. Thank you, Doctor. I think we are running out of time, but I have another question, Doctor. I had the opportunity to join you, Yele, and Dr. C at COP30, and we have learned a lot from this event. We witnessed how essential it is for rural and indigenous communities to have their voices represented in these global conversations, so they can act as true catalyst of climate action, as true catalyst of change. But we also need to bring in other actors to those conversations: private sector, civil society, academia, policymakers. so we can transform the agri-food sector and build solutions that are more inclusive and stronger. So in that sense, how can we better bring other actors into this conversation? Actors such as those I have mentioned, and civil society, academia, indigenous communities. What we need to do to integrate them in the conversation.
I think, yeah, this COP, these are global processes where the global policies are made or global agendas are agreed. And when, when something is made, if we are making policy for farmers or local communities and they are not involved, maybe we wouldn't be making a right policy, right? So if we are making a climate policy for farmer, for food system or or indigenous community, they know the realities. They know the challenges that they are facing, and they also would probably, suggest some of the solutions. But scientists can propose hundreds of solutions, but they may not be relevant for the farmers. So it is very important for these local actors, farming community, civil society organization, and indigenous people to bring on those forums so that we understand the local reality and challenges, and there will be hundreds of solutions. And then from there, they can choose, okay, this is better for the problem that I'm facing. And that's how the solutions become really site specific and locally relevant. Without involving them, it is not going to be locally relevant. And for that, I think, globally, we need to make sure that there is increased number of quotas for farmers, practitioners, civil society organizations, local communities to attend on these forums, and then their voices are heard. Without their participation, their voices won't be heard, and then that would not be possible to have a meaningful climate action in a local level.
Thank you, Doctor. That's great. We are running out of time, but if the audience allows me, I would like to share a short reflection based on your journey, Doctor. As you mentioned, each of us can be a catalyst of change in our families, in our communities, and through our everyday work. So thank you for this meaningful conversation. We need to strengthen the integration of science with that ancestral knowledge of farmers and indigenous community. Perhaps that's the way we can move faster. We can truly catalyze the sustainable transformation of agri-food systems. Thank you, Dr. Tek. Isabel?
Yeah, thank you very much, Francisco, for this very inspiring and also for your reflection. Thank you very much for having this conversation with Dr. Tek Sapkota. On behalf of Dr. Brankover, Director General of CIMMYT, we thank Dr. Tek Sapkota so much for sharing with us your outstanding journey. It was very educative and very nice and inspirational reflection that we get as our takeaway today. Also, we appreciate Dr. Sig Snap for the introduction and Francisco Alarcón for having a great and stimulating conversation with Tek. We invite the audience to participate in the upcoming series, Catalyst of Change, for 2026. Have a nice day. Have a nice evening. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. It was extreme honor to talk on this prestigious forum, Isabel. Thank you very much.
Thank you.